Welcome to Wide Eyes, a podcast made to uplift and educate others about the Asian American community. My name is Anou.
I'm Katie.
And this is Hnub. And for this month's topic, we'll be sharing our personal experiences in navigating college as first and second generation students.
So I think it's very important to first define what first and second generation students are. I feel like for a lot of students who are starting their first year, they hear the term first generation a lot. And a lot of students don't know what that is. Me personally, I didn't know what that was either. So a first generation student is a student whose parents did not complete a 4-year college or university degree. And then a second generation student is a student who has either both their parents or one of their parents were the first to attend and complete a 4-year college degree or university degree. And so the three of us, we have a perspective from both a first and a second generation student. And so, Hnub, can you tell us a little bit more about your perspective as a first generation student, maybe any struggles, any insecurities, or just anything in general that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, definitely. And as a first generation student, there were many unique challenges that I encountered so far throughout my college experiences, and such as just, finding it difficult to be able to relate to peers or friends of mine who do not share the same experience as a first generation student. And another thing is just to constantly having to explain the demands and also the rigorous challenges to my friends and families, and also to include not being able to understand the cultural norms and expectation of the college life, because my parents or none of my siblings have gone to college, so they don't know what that experience is like. So just going into it, it's like I'm going out of my comfort zone.
So like Hnub, I identify myself as a first gen too. And this is Katie, by the way. And I agree with everything Hnub said. And I want to kind of hit the topic of role model, which I feel like it correlates to independency. I feel like as a first gen, for me within my family household, I didn't really have a role model, and especially being a person of color. On top of that, I didn't really see that within my community. So it was hard for me to just go to college or just be in school in general, because I didn't really have that one person who was ahead of me who could teach me and, guide me the way that a college student should be. I would say I practically did everything by myself, because my parents, they didn't know anything about college as well, or education, so it was hard because I didn't have that role model, which I want to tie into independency, which is, I feel like it's really hard because since I didn't have the role model and I was not really comfortable being independent, it was really hard for me to step into that independency, especially going into my first year of college when, for example, I didn't know that I have to pack my own lunch. This is real. Okay. I didn't bring no money whatsoever on my first day of college because I was still living the high school thing. I thought that they're going to prepare lunch for me. This is real. And I basically, I didn't have no money. I wasn't with my friends that day. I didn't brought no lunch. So I basically didn't eat anything. So that's my story. I was not aware of how college was going to be like. And then on top of that, being independent too, I was kind of expecting my professors or my friend or my family would kind of tell me, oh, make sure you bring lunch, make sure you do this and that. But I was all by myself. I feel like I was stranded, literally. And as it come to times and I educate myself and really just going to college, it really helped me to kind of build that independency. And I'm more comfortable where I'm at now. Another perspective of first generation student I want to talk about is the pressure to excel in the family. For me personally, I'm the second oldest in my family to go to college. So there was a lot of pressure because, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really have that role model to teach me the way through or guide me to pursue higher education. I did literally everything by myself. So then it was difficult being the first gen because I had to face pressure. I feel like my family, they weren't putting that pressure on me, but then knowing myself, I was putting that, it's internal pressure. I was pressuring myself even more when I knew that it's okay, but then at the same time, I have younger siblings. So I do want them to have a role model in a sense that it will guide them and help them. But at the same time, I'm still learning within myself too. So there's all sorts of pressure. I feel like everyone pressured within different things, right? In areas. And I feel like being first gen was definitely that one pressure. And just talking about it right now, I feel like I'm discovering new things about myself that I never really talked about. With that being said, I want to ask you, Anu, what was your perspective being a second generation student?
First off, I'd like to apologize. I forgot to identify that New and Katie, they're first generations, and I'm a second generation student. And so, yes, I am a second generation student. Just kind of listening to both, New and Katie, your perspectives, I realized that I was very privileged. For me, as a second generation student, it wasn't as nerve wracking because my mom was the one who finished her 4-year degree. And so she was really there to help guide me. So when I came to Fresno State, she also was an alumni of Fresno State, and she showed me around campus. She's like, "Oh, this is where your classes are going to be. This is the bookstore," right? And so, Katie, you mentioned your lunch money, right? I didn't even realize that was a thing until you mentioned that. And I was like, oh my gosh, my mom told me about it. I got these little tips and tricks. And so she told me, like, make sure you carry cash. And I was like, why do I need cash? Like, I don't need cash. And she's like, yeah, well, what happens if you're hungry and you forgot to bring your lunch, and or you're hungry and you want to buy like granola bar or something? It's just like, and for me too, I was kind of like, don't we get these for free? Like, don't we get lunch? She's like, no, you're gonna have to pay for everything. And so I didn't realize how privileged I was until, especially like, the whole lunch money thing. I was just like, oh, you're right. Like, college, everything's not for free. Everything's not like in college or in high school. Everything's not handed to you on a silver plate. And so I also think that it was very my mom understood what 15 units was. I feel like for us, at least going in, I didn't understand how overwhelming like a 15 unit course load would be. And so, I wanted, oh, thank God I didn't. But like, I was like, I'm gonna do 22 units, I'm like, I'm gonna, go ham and do everything, right? She's like, no. You want to do 15 units because you're gonna die, right? And so thankfully, like, I had that guidance to kind of help me understand what a 15 unit course load would look like. Now I want to say, like, I didn't realize how privileged I was to get these little tips and tricks, because if I didn't, I'd probably be like Katie and starve on my first day of college, right? And so yeah, it wasn't as challenging as, well, now that I'm looking back at it, it wasn't as challenging compared to New and Katie's. But nonetheless, it was definitely nerve-wracking, because anyone's first day of college and anyone's first day of really independence and freedom is really nerve-wracking. New and Katie, I'm just gonna pick your brains a little bit, because I've talked to many first gen students, but like I've never really dove in deep, right? And so, can you tell me a little bit more about the process of applying to college as a first gen? Because I know you both mentioned, like, you didn't have that guidance, and so obviously for me, I have that guidance not only with my mom, but I had my high school. They did a really good job too. And so, can you tell me a little bit more about what the process was like for a first gen?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like this could go both for me and Katie, because we both went to the same high school. And the high school that we went to was a non-traditional high school. So of course it was a difficult experience for us, especially the fact that while we started to work on our college application and all that process, we only had one counselor, and our counselor was let go. So from there, our parents didn't know what to do with our college application, what the process was like. So I felt like we were like walking on eggshells with the college application process. And Katie, you could go ahead and chime in, because I feel like both of us went to the same high school. So it was like pretty much similar experience.
Yeah, I want to mention how although we didn't know much about the process to apply college, I feel like knowing our personality, we were motivated to learn. So we went online and we did our research, and we still applied to college, although we didn't have all the information, but then we did what we best could. And then whatever we didn't know, we went to school and asked our counselor.
That sucks. Your experience. I'm so sorry. That sucks. And so maybe you can help your younger siblings, or anyone else comes to y'all. But obviously, the transition to college or applying to college was hard. But how difficult was it to get involved in campus and student life, or campus life and clubs and organizations after you got accepted into college?
For me, I think new as well. It wasn't that hard, because knowing within ourselves, we were very involved in high school. We were just very outgoing. And then being first gen too, we pushed ourselves to our limits. We want to like try everything that came our way, take advantage of what was there, right? So it wasn't really hard, but I would say that like personally, like I was struggling through my first semester. So I would say that interfered with me kind of like getting involved in campus. But other than that, if I didn't have that personal issue, I would have done the best I could.
Yeah, definitely to what Katie mentioned as well. Because we did went to a non-traditional high school, we were taught to basically get out of our comfort zone because the high school we went to was an entrepreneurship-based high school. So basically, they just taught us to get out of our comfort zone, to get engaged with the community. And also, we also had the opportunity to talk with college students and also community business leaders. So it was an experience that I'm pretty sure both me and Katie are grateful for because it allowed the both of us to be more comfortable on talking to strangers now and also like taking on risk.
And so lastly, what piece of advice would you share to an incoming first generation college student?
My piece of advice would just to be like, don't let the pressure of having to succeed in college weigh you down. And college is not for everyone. So it's okay to fail, because I feel like a lot of people have this like mindset of like, oh, I have to succeed all the time. But then you need to realize that you're only human and it's completely okay to fail.
I love that. So like my advice, it's similar to new because earlier I said that like as a first gen, we're usually, I feel like for me, like as a first gen, I took advantage of everything that came my way, but I just gotta say it's okay to say no. I feel like all throughout my college life, I was so like, yes, 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 yes. Like I didn't want to let anyone down. And I feel like I didn't want to let myself down, but I was thinking about others more than myself. So then I always say yes whenever like any opportunities, anything that came my way, I always say yes. But I learned now that it's okay to say no, because I feel like everyone is different and you don't have to say yes to succeed, like New said, right? I feel like the definition or the term of success, it varies for people. And I learned to come in terms with what my success means like. And I feel like it's totally okay to say no, even though you let that opportunity to go, there's always one comes the next door. Moving on to Anou. So as a second gen, since your parent or parents did complete higher education, were you under the pressure to do well academically?
That's a good question. I feel like, honestly speaking, I feel like it was yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, what parent doesn't want their child to succeed? There was that constant reminder to do well in class, to do well in your studies. But I feel like, especially for my mom, she understood how much college is like, how much effort needs to succeed in college. Yeah, I think I answered it. But what I would say is I don't think they understood how demanding, especially a STEM major is. Because my mom, she was business, props to y'all, a lot of math, but she was a business administration. I don't know. She did something in accounting. I should probably know, but she got a business degree in accounting. And so obviously that is hard in its own, but I feel like, not trying to talk up STEM majors or anything, but STEM majors, like, it requires a lot. I feel like especially a lot more just because we have all these labs, at least because I'm a bio major. So, we have all these labs we got to do, just all of these extra resources. And going into STEM in general is really challenging in it of itself. And so, yes, they were understanding. And so they did, like, you have to do well, Anyway, so they were understanding, but I don't think they really understood and comprehended like how hard a STEM major is. I think my mom could kind of relate because, man, my mom's amazing. She was a SMIT Camps honor, and so she got, yeah, I know, right? And so, right, I know, mom, I'm so proud of you. But and so she was really smart, and so her first C ever in general chemistry, in like the general chemistry for like non-STEM majors, she got a C, and so she was just like, I was like, especially when I got to like the OChem and upper division chemistry courses, as well as like biology courses, like that was like the time I was like the most stressed. And so she was really understanding. She was like, I'm so proud of you. I don't even know how you're able to do this, because yes, there was this understanding. And so I feel like there wasn't that much pressure for me to do well academically. And so they were, obviously they said like, if you can do straight A's, like, awesome, right? But it wasn't like you have to do it, you have to get a straight A. And especially that comes a lot from my mom. What I would like to say is, I think for me, it was a lot more challenging internally. I too applied to SMIT camp. I didn't get it. And so I was, trying to follow my mom's footsteps, but I didn't get these SMIT camp honors. And so I had that internal pressure to, mom did it, I can do it too. And I feel like that kind of goes back to Katie, you touching upon being that role model for your younger siblings to show them that it's possible, right? And so my mom did that. And so I was very disappointed in myself when I couldn't do it. And so you guys mentioned getting involved, like it was really easy for you all to get involved. But for me too, I was a very outgoing person, but I didn't get as involved because I was like, okay, I have to succeed. I have to do the best that I possibly can so that, I don't disappoint mom and dad. I feel like externally there wasn't a lot of pressure, but internally there was a lot of pressure.
Wow, Anu, thank you for sharing that. And also I just wanted to, let you know that I totally relate to you about, because me and Katie, we also applied to SMIT camp too, and we didn't get it. So it's all good. It's all good. It's a really cool program and all. I just want to let you know that, you are doing amazing. And then onto the question that I have for you is, what piece of advice would you share with incoming second generation college students?
I would say it's okay to not know everything. I feel like for us, we're kind of stuck in this boat of we have parents who are able to help guide us. I feel like at least for first gens, they have a lot of help to, get them going through college, right? But I don't think, which nothing's wrong with that, but I feel like for second gens, there, especially from like my mom, there's this age gap. There's this gap of when your parents completed college and when you complete college. I feel like for a lot of, there's like at least a 20-year age gap. And so going to college in the 80s or the 90s is very different than going to college in the 2020s, right? I feel like we're in a sense kind of figuring everything out all over again in terms of registering for classes, because when my mom went to Fresno State, they still did like course catalog, like they printed like big stacks of books and they sent it out to everyone. So there was nothing digital. If they wanted a class, they had to like circle their classes that they wanted in the book and then go in person and register, right? Whereas we did everything online, right? So obviously like orientation, they go over that all over again, but it's just there's this really big age gap. And so I feel like there's, at least for me, there was this pressure to, oh, didn't your parents, they went to college, right? Like shouldn't you know this already? Like, you're kind of already used to this, but and so we don't get that guidance that first gens do. So even though like, it's okay to not know everything, because you are in a sense kind of going through this all over again, because once again, like I said, maybe it was like 10 plus years that your parents, they've gone to college. So maybe they can help you with like, make sure you bring your money on the first day of college. Get your textbooks early. But I feel like those small tips and tricks is really it. And you're kind of navigating the whole registration. Maybe if your parents are alumni of that certain university that you're going to, like, yeah, they'll tell you, where this place is or where that place is. But obviously, we're still, Fresno State's getting a new USU, so my mom won't know what that is, right? And so that's really on me to kind of like, explore and know where that is, right? And so it's okay not to know everything. So that was a little bit more about our perspectives as first and second generation students, the struggles, the difficulties, the challenges, the everything in between. Hopefully that helped at least, if not some of y'all. And so right now we're just really going to go into little Q&A style about, how we chose our major, balancing school life and work life. Anu and Katie, maybe if you guys can share a little bit more about how you chose your major, because I feel like coming in, like there's so many that you can choose from, right? From either STEM or business or everything in between.
All right. I will go ahead and go first. Well, I'm not sure if many people know this, but I initially did not want to go to college. And I knew I was also in upper bound too. And, they're supposed to help us to go to college. So I first went to my freshman year, I went to like a traditional high school. And I just there was nothing that interested me. And then when I had this opportunity to go to this like entrepreneurship high school, I was like, oh, why not try this out? This seems interesting. So after going there and through those experiences, it led me choosing a business major. So my major is business administration. And then I initially, first year of college going in, was going to do entrepreneurship. But then I actually changed it to management, because I feel like management is all the courses there I basically learned a little bit of finance, accounting, HR, and there's also entrepreneurship. And then all the courses that I'm taking within my major, it's basically a little bit of everything. So yeah, so that's how I came to choose my major. And I feel like that was from my experience, but for Katie, it may have been different.
Many people may thought that I might go into entrepreneurship or business because we went to entrepreneurship high school, but I chose something completely that's not, business related. I chose psychology. Well, I was always fascinated with, psychology because maybe because I have a different concept of psychology because I was so into like Criminal Minds, Hawaii Five-O, Law and Order, Victims Unit. I was all about that. And I thought psych was going to be like that. So that was my imagination of psychology. Okay. But then once I took courses in psych, I was like, oh, this is not no Criminal Minds. Like, I ain't going to find no serial killers here. It was very completely different from what I thought. But then like at the same time, I like came to like learn like an appreciation, newfound appreciation to psychology. And I really like a different side of psychology because there's basic psych and there's applied psychology. So I'm more into applied where it's like one-on-one talking to people, unlike like the biological factor where you have to do, research and that. I'm not into that. Like it's so hard. I can't comprehend any of that. But I came to like an appreciation of what psych is and like I like my major. How about you, Anu?
Yeah, so for me, and I kind of touched upon this in the last episode where I was talking about like how I chose a pre-med route. But for me personally, like ever since high school, like I've always wanted to be a doctor. And so I feel like at least in the last episode, it sounded like I just wanted to be a doctor for the paycheck, but no, this was, really, I was in the pre-med path or the biomedical pathway in high school. Like I was doing all of this cool stuff and really science amazes me. Right. And so it was really easy for me to kind of go into biology because I love science. I think it's amazing. And women in STEM, woo, go, right? And then, so coupled with that, with a lot of the prereqs for medical school was bio degree. And so I was just like, that's the easiest choice. But in case you didn't know, I'm a very outgoing individual and I love theater, right? I love expressing myself. I love being able to put myself and just be a new character and be someone else, right? And so I was actually really considering, especially when I was going to UCI, like I wanted a theater degree. And so I was like, okay, I'll just double major in theater and bio. Long story short, I was just like, oh, this is a lot as a double major for bio and theater. Ultimately, I decided to go, with the whole UCI debacle, I decided to go the biomed or the biology route. Yeah. And so just touching upon that a little bit, I feel like we've said time and time again, there's so many opportunities and so many majors that you could explore your first year in college or just for college in general. And I feel like it's okay to go undeclared because I was also considering going undeclared because I was really still in that, do I want to go theater or do I want to go bio route? I feel like for a lot of students, there's just this bad rep about going undeclared and not knowing what the heck you want to do. And honestly speaking, nobody knows what the heck they want to do. Like to those, the very select few, obviously they were born to be a lawyer or born to be a doctor or born to go into theater. But I feel like for the majority of us, like we have an idea, but it's not solidified. And so it's okay to take your first or second year and explore your opportunities because there's just so much to offer out there. I'm a testament to that. My whole first 2.5 years, I was all pre-med. So everything I did was like bio. Everything I do is like science, which don't get me wrong, I loved it. But now that I'm like off the pre-med route, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in that undeclared phase where like there's so much I can do that, it doesn't revolve around science. And so I think it's definitely okay to go undeclared if you really don't have an idea of what you want to do or what you want to get a degree in. As a bio major, it was really time consuming. I mentioned this before, but as a bio major, you have a lot of labs. They're fun, but they're, 3-hour labs 2 times a week. And it's not like you're usually, they take a good chunk of your day off, right? And so for me, I knew that I wanted to focus on my education, at least my first year. And, that's why I really didn't consider any social life or work. I was just immersed in my studies. I was literally just studying day in and day out. Don't do that. Definitely have a social life, make friends. What I can say is though, it definitely taught me to be more resilient and just making sure that you reach your end goal. What definitely helped me was having a planner. In case y'all didn't know, a planner is going to be your life, because it's not like in high school where you have a set schedule every single day, right? Some days you'll have classes on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they're not all from 9 to 12. Some classes are in the morning, some are in the evening. So definitely having a schedule will definitely benefit you, if not for your academics, but especially your work. Maybe you forget, at least I hope you don't forget, but maybe you need to physically see, like, oh, I'm working on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then classes are on Wednesdays, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, right? And so definitely have a college or have a planner. College is not like in the movies. You're not going to be, you know what, who knows, right? Because I was a bookworm. Maybe this is someone else's experience, but for me, like, I wasn't partying like every weekend. I wasn't partying like Wednesday night, going to class my 8 and then especially going to party Wednesday night and then getting ready and up and, like, makeup done, ready for my 8 a.m. class. Like, that is not realistic. Yeah, college life, there's some aspects that are true. It's definitely a lot more freedom and independence, but it's not really like in the movies. New and Katie, do you guys have anything to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and chime in. And Anu mentioned how a planner is helpful. Another tool that I think will be good to utilize is the Google Calendar. And it works just the same as having a physical planner. And it's basically just switching your events or like agenda over to like digital, and you will get like Google alerts notification. It's especially helpful when your exam dates is coming up, or you have a doctor's appointment, or like just having events or like Zoom call meetings. All of that is very helpful, especially utilizing Google Calendar. So moving on, a question that the three of us could answer is that, did college meet our expectations?
Okay, so that's a great question. Well, I don't know if college met my expectations. Like, I feel like I don't have an like exact answer for this question, because it has so many layers. But I will say that college is a life-changing experience. It really is, because people may just say, oh, oh, she's just going to college. Like, okay, high school and college, that's nothing. Boy, no. College is different from high school. And I feel like high school was an experience itself too, right? Even just like middle school and elementary, we all go through those phases of our for like adulthood life, which I still don't know what adulthood is for real. Like I feel like I'm not even an adult myself. I don't know. But then yeah, I have really nothing to say except college is just a life-changing experience, and you just, you grow, you learn. There are going to be failures. It's okay. One thing I was add on within the social life is the friends you have then, they ain't going to be your friends later, and it's totally okay. Like, I really want to say that, because like back then in high school, I used to be like, oh my god, she's not my friend anymore, why she don't want to be my friend, how like kind of like small minded, right? But then like as I went to college, and like I'm not friends with some of the people that I thought were my friends, it's totally okay, right? And it may be for the better, it may be for the worse, it's totally okay, but you learn from it. And that's what I did. Like, I took away from that. I'm like, it's okay, friends are never going to be there. They're not going to be the friends who you thought they're going to be, and it's okay to have new friends.
I agree with what Katie mentioned. And not just that, but I feel like college itself is a chapter that is a chapter that is a part of our adult life and the journey that we're going on. And all of us are going through this individual journey, just self-discovery, figuring out what we want in life and what we want to do. And those that are there, they are a part of your journey, a part of the chapter in your lives. And I feel like it's completely okay, because I feel like the person that I was my freshman year in college, I am not that same new, I am a completely different new. I've become the best version of myself. And I feel like over the years, we will continue to just flourish and grow and to become the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, echoing on what New said, I think for me, did college meet my expectations? It's kind of like a yes and a no. Because for me, I really thought that I was going to have a bunch of friends, going partying. Well, not really partying, but, just going out to socialize. really explore my identity of who is Anou, right? Because of my internal struggles and the expectations that I put on myself, I feel like I robbed myself in my first 2 years of college of really enjoying, because I feel like your first 2 years isn't that hard because you're taking a lot of like lower division and GE courses, but once you get to third and fourth year, you're kind of like, oh shit, I need to figure this stuff out, right? And so that's kind of in the boat that I am. So I'm kind of obviously right now, like, I'm engaging myself a lot more than I was, and I feel like I'm getting that experience, but I wish I would have done it earlier so I could enjoy the whole 4 years, right? I feel like my first 2 years, they didn't meet what I thought college was going to be, but ultimately I think it did meet my expectations, because kind of like New, I wanted to go to college to really find myself. And so I feel like I am still in the process of doing that. You'll find your pillars of who you are, but you're always evolving and you're constantly going to change. And so I feel like, I'm getting closer to kind of figuring out who the heck I am and what the heck I like. But yeah, it's just kind of going back to the question of, I feel like my first 2 years were robbed by myself because I didn't put myself out there like I wanted myself to, but I'm doing that now, and it's amazing. I love it. Kind of going off the theme of, I wish I would have done my first 2 years differently. And so a couple of advices I can give to our listeners is or our listeners who are incoming freshmen, or just in college already, and this isn't the ideal college experience that you want. It's to first get involved. You will learn so much about yourself, your likes, your dislikes, strengths and weaknesses. And maybe you volunteer in student involvement and you find out that, oh my gosh, I love planning fun parties and I love planning events and I love helping students also get involved and making sure that they find a connection to the university. Who knows, maybe you might do a complete 180 and get involved in student involvement, right? Really just take these opportunities to join a club that you probably would have never joined, because who knows, you might fall in love with it. And a little, I want to, not too serious, but make sure you address your professors as either professor or doctor. Don't call them teachers. Thankfully, I learned this early on. My first class, they were like, you need to address me by doctor. And so I was just like, oh, maybe I just need to do that for everyone who's a doctor. But I had some of my peers, they kept calling this particular professor teacher, teacher, teacher. They were not on the good list. These individuals, they spend their lives studying to get their PhD. And so titles do mean a lot in college. You're not reading textbooks. You're no longer just reading the textbooks, right? You're learning from the people who wrote these textbooks. So it's really important to address them accordingly. And some are adamant and some are more, they'll let you know, like, you need to address me by doctor or professor, but others are a lot more relaxed. But just to be safe, if some of them don't have their doctorate, because it just really depends. At least for STEM, a lot of some professors, they have their masters and they're doing like labs and stuff like that. And so if you don't know how to address like doctor or not, then just say professor to be safe. But titles do mean a lot, and just letting you know beforehand, some of them might not like you calling them teacher.
Another piece of advice is to go to office hours, because I feel like that's going to be very helpful in the long run. And just being able to build that relationship with your professors, because when you're going to ask for a letter of recommendation, they're going to be that person who writes you letter of rec. And not just that too, but if, for some people that may not click with your professors, that's completely fine. That's also normal. And you could opt in if you ever need help with certain assignments or anything for like a project coming up. You could opt in for like the tutoring center if you and your professor just don't click with each other.
Kind of similar to topic of like professors or staffs or anybody, like learn to write an email. I was luckily thankful enough to go to an entrepreneurship high school where they did taught us the formal on how to write email and just to speak professionally. So I'm like grateful for that. So I like coming in my freshman year of college, I knew like how to address my professors or even staffs or anyone. Even like if I'm emailing a peer that's in my class, I still address them by like hello, their name, and like sincerely Katie. So I was grateful enough to learn to write an email. Make sure you capitalize your I, okay? Because I know a lot of times, students don't capitalize your I, or when you write you, a lot of people don't write YOU, the correct spelling. You just put a U. So that's not professional. So make sure to write words the way it is in the dictionary. Make sure to write the way it is. And don't put your email in the subject section. I'm laughing because I see this a lot of the times where people actually write their email in the subject section. And I know that's a little bit confusing at times because there's different layouts of how to write email. So just make sure, I know that there's like a lot of templates online where you could follow the guideline on how to write an email if need help, or seek the career center at your university, wherever you're going, because they will help you on how to write an email.
I feel like this is kind of obvious, but some of my peers did it. Don't go to a party the night before a test. If you're drinking, hopefully you're over 21, but you're gonna have a hangover. Yeah, it's just not a good combination.
Adding to what Anu mentioned earlier, I personally, I feel like it depends on the person. I'm not really a party person and it's just not my cup of tea. But like if you do go party, I highly recommend you go with a group of friends that you trust and you can rely on, especially if you're going to drink. The basics, okay? I feel like safety should be your number one priority. Like, yes, party and do that, but make sure you're safe. Make sure your friends and family know where you're at, and make sure, I don't know, have 911 on speed dial or something like that. Cause I know that they do have some like teaching courses of like this whole party life thing.
What Anu and Katie, you guys both mentioned, are all good information. And I want to go more towards chiming into you both, but also go into the different type of resources that you guys could always check out to our listeners. The health center, in case anyone at their universities, community college, there may or may not be, just to double check at your campuses, is that there are health centers that you guys could check out in case whenever you get sick or anything with mental health or therapy, counseling, even as to what Anu and Katie mentioned about the party life. There's sex education there as well. Get your, protection, get the pill, birth control, get all of the things that you need. I don't know if it's the same for other universities, but I'm so happy that at our college, we have the recreation center, which is basically the gym, and our tuition already pay for the gym. So technically it's free, but not really free because the student tuition, all that stuff. But yes, go to the gym. Okay, I'm like not advocating. Okay, I am advocating, make sure you guys have a good physical health, not just that, but it's free. So take advantage of it.
I want to briefly mention that all the resources that we listed down here, it's from the university that we go to. So please make sure to check whichever university you go to, what kind of resource they give you, because the name might be different or you might have something completely different.
Yes, what Katie said.
Yeah, and so one cool thing that we have is the student cupboard, and this is under the wellness program in our student health and counseling center. Basically, the student cupboard, they just give us free food. We legit have it's like growing grocery shopping. Like they have freezers of hot for cold foods and hot foods, like cabbages, fruits, vegetables. They also do CalFresh, which is basically like if you meet certain criteria, you get free money for groceries. And this doesn't just have to be from Fresno State, but they like your local grocery store. So yeah, so definitely check out if your school has any of these resources, because I'm fairly sure, if not 100%, I'm like 90% positive that a lot of these resources that we have on campus, or you have on campus, or your university, it's coming from your tuition. So definitely utilize the resources that are free to you. Yeah, so I feel like that pretty much wraps up our kind of Q&A session for this podcast. And so one last question before we leave. The question that I want to ask you all is or New and Katie, is how would you describe your college experience in one word?
I would say growth, because like literally I feel like in high school I was kind of like, yeah, of course we all go through that period of time where we grow, right? But then I feel like it wasn't until I hit college when I knew what growth really meant, because I feel like in college it made me really delve deep, into like find my identity, like what you both mentioned earlier, really just discussing about my career, like what I want to do, if I want to change my major, all the things that we discussed about, even like family being involved and kind of like setting the boundaries and going to therapy, all the things that we've been mentioning in our previous episodes leading up till now. I feel like to me, growth is that one word I will describe within my college experience, because I personally felt like maybe if I didn't go to college, would I experience this much growth? I don't know if I would, because like literally, I'm just thinking about like as of right now, COVID, right? And we're stuck at home. And if I didn't went to college and I'm like just quarantining myself here all day, what would I do? I would just literally stay in bed, watch Korean drama, listen to K-pop. I feel like I wouldn't do anything beneficial. And I feel like I wouldn't see or know what growth really meant. So I feel like college really pushed me to really seek my growth and really learn what I'm capable of, right? And learning when to stop. Because like I mentioned, as a first gen, it's really hard to say no. I'm so used to saying yes that I would always help, even when I knew that my mental health and my well-being was not there. I still help others, right? And there's just so much growth from what I'm experiencing right now, and from like just like new stuff. Like our old self is not our new self right now, right? We're constantly changing. So I would say growth.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Katie. I love the word that you chose. Now, the word that I chose is procrastination. And I'm not going to lie, because every single assignment that I had to do in college, or any of the projects that I've done in college so far, I have procrastinated. And I feel like I will continue to do that. It's a part of me, procrastination. And I do know that, it's a bad habit, but I just can't help it. But to turn this into a more positive note overall, my college experience has been nothing but a journey of self-discovery. So, yeah. And yes, procrastination as well.
Man, I feel like we all kind of had like a similar word. Kate, I love your word growth. I wish I had something that just like encompasses everything. But for me, it was really eye-opening. That would be my one word, because kind of like Katie and new to like I really kind of discovered myself, and especially with how like I literally put out all my eggs in one basket, especially with my whole pre-med whatever, right? But it was realizing that maybe medicine isn't for me, and realizing that it's okay to change career choice, your major, well, I didn't change my major, but whatever it is that you're doing. And so that was really eye-opening for me, because I always thought that like you have to have everything figured out at 18. That's what I thought. Go to college, get your 4 degree, like work in whatever career that you want, right? And it doesn't have to be that way. So for me, like it was really eye-opening.
It has come to an end of our episode 4 of Navigating College with Anou, Katie, and I. And we hope that you guys were able to take something away from this episode. And we can't wait to chat with you guys in the next episode. So feel free to check us out on Instagram at White Eyes Podcast.